All right, boys, welcome to this video, first of all. Now, this video is specifically for you if you're running an online business or if you're somewhat related to this whole online business space bubble, or if you at least want to do something else compared to the normal way in life, right? So, it all started a few years ago when I first started to become more and more active in this whole online business space, right? Back then I was still in school, like kind of doing military service because this was obligatory in Austria, like still is, I think. And back then I remember I was gradually starting to distance myself from people in my environment, right? The people that have been in my circle or around my circle for multiple years back then, right? All the friends from school, like also the people that I had to work with during military service. So I started to join communities and I started to talk to a lot of people in this space, and it kind of felt like I found my family. I kind of found people that really understand me, right? Because maybe you can relate to that, if you're in this whole online business space yourself and no one of your friends is doing the same thing, it can be kind of lonely sometimes because you meet your friends and they all talk about business, school, university, work or whatnot, and you kind of cannot really relate because you're doing something completely different. So it was exactly the same for me back then, right? And the more I got involved in this whole space, the more I started to talk to people, the more I kind of got exposed to the numbers that are possible in this whole space, right? I mean, doing like 20, 30, 40, 50, 100K, 200K per month, the more I started to struggle. Now, why is that? Well, that is because I started to compare myself to all of those guys that were doing and pulling those insane numbers back then, right? Because again, if you have never been exposed to these kind of numbers, talking to someone doing like 50K per month is insane, right? I mean, that's more like than a yearly salary, for example, in Austria, like when you have an average job, right? So to me, that was insane. And the thing is, the more I got involved in this whole space, right, over the last few years, because I've been doing this for a very long time now, I kind of only allowed people from this space to be in my circle, in my surroundings. I literally completely distanced myself from, and I mean it with all the respect, normal people, right? Because of course, the people that you surround yourself with directly, can impact the results that you're able to generate at the end of the day, right? Because you always adapt to the people around you. Can be a good thing, can be a bad thing as well. Because at some point, I literally had this image of a perfect man nowadays, right? A top 1% man, because that's a pretty big term that we all heard, I guess, from a certain person. And in my head, right, if I wasn't making like 50K, for example, consistently, if I wasn't shredded as fuck, if I wasn't driving a Lambo, if I didn't have a fucking 10 watch collection worth like 5 mil, I was a nobody. That is literally how I started to feel at some point. Because again, I was only comparing myself to the people that were directly in my environment. And those people kind of shaped or created this new standard for myself that I always compared myself to, right? Of course, if I compare myself to, for example, people from my older circles, from school, maybe some, a few of them, I don't want to, name them or anything, but just like, from an outside perspective, right? On paper, of course, I might be doing way better than some of them. But again, I was never comparing myself to people respectfully, like on paper, again, below me, right? Because you always kind of look up to people. You always strive for new things, for bigger things that you want to achieve and create in your life or like in business. And that's when this whole problem started. And I know for a fact because over the last years, I talked with a bunch of guys. I have a huge network myself. And I worked one-on-one with a lot of guys as well with one of my businesses, Mind Plus specifically, as you can see here. Not a plug, by the way. So I know that a lot of you guys are going through the same thing. I know that a lot of you guys are struggling with that as well. That you feel like when you don't hit certain numbers, or like when you have not achieved certain things, you're not really a man, right? You're not it, pretty much, right? And that's something that I really want to address in this video, because also, especially when you watch YouTube, when you consume content about online, business or like online money or whatnot, you kind of get this picture of a perfect man when we talk about certain role models, right? Having those things, making, this amount of money every single day, every single month, every single year. And you literally compare yourself to those guys over and over again, right? especially when you distance yourself from your older friends or like whatever. And that's the problem. That is a problem, because I can promise you that is not the norm. It may seem like that because it also started to seem like that for me the more I got involved in this space, because that's literally the only thing I've been seeing over and over again 24/7. But that is not the norm. And social media, especially in this case, can be a very bad thing, a very toxic thing, I would even say, to guys as well, right? Because when we talk about girls compare themselves to, other kind of, beauty standards or like role models or like perfect models or like whatever, looking at their faces, their bodies, and kind of comparing themselves and feeling bad about it if they are not like, as flat as this girl, for example. And frankly, we don't really have that as guys, right? I mean, most of us. But what we do is we do the same thing in a way, but we do it with monetary things, with results. That's kind of in our nature, of course. But again, what I'm trying to say, and that literally the same thing goes for women as well. Do not compare yourself to certain things that you see online, because most of those things, if not even all of those things, are not the norm. The only thing that you should compare yourself to, the only person you should compare yourself to, is yourself yesterday. You should only strive for becoming better than yourself yesterday, right? Improving every single day, growing every single day, doing more every single day. That is the only way of improving yourself, of being able to improve yourself, and to also be satisfied with yourself. Because when you always compare yourself to illusionary kind of, types of personas online or like whatever, you will never feel good. But again, that is not the norm, is what I'm trying to say. Don't feel like shit just because you don't hit like 50K per month consistently because you feel like that's the norm. You have to do it because every single person online is doing that. No, they are not. Of course, there are people that are pulling like, huge numbers consistently, of course, but the amount of those people is tiny. The problem is that through social media, because you follow all those people, because you consistently get exposed to the content of these kinds of people, you start to believe that literally every single person is pulling those numbers. And because of that, you start to feel like shit because you have to be an outsider. What is it that you're doing wrong? Why are you not able to also consistently pull huge numbers? And that's where it gets problematic. Same goes for health standards, right? You feel like, every single person, every single guy that's the top 1% man is ripped as fuck or like whatever, and every single person or like every single guy outside is exactly the same. Go to the gym. Like literally go to the gym and look around. You will see like maybe in my own gym, from my own experience, like 3 guys max that are like really, really ripped. The rest of the guys kind of average, Of course, they're looking at their health and stuff, and that's, super good and respectful. And I respect that. But again, what I'm trying to say, it's not the norm. And this video, like the point of this video is not to make you settle for less or like, not be as ambitious as you have been for like up until now. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is be kind of realistic and don't lose yourself in this illusion of chasing certain standards that are just so far away from the norm. Like literally. If you break it down, if you think about it, even if you make like 10K per month, right? I mean, that's kind of the first milestone for certain people in this whole online space. 10K per month is a lot of money. Like, really think about it, right? Making 10K per month, that's like a crazy salary when we talk about jobs, right? Certain people have to go to university and study for multiple years to even come close to that. Or even then they don't come close to that, right? And you can do this from your computer. Again, I'm not saying be satisfied with that, because literally endless possibilities and opportunities, but also be realistic about it and understand what is happening around you and who you really are. Because that's the only way of actually staying sane, staying on the path, and being able to grow and improve yourself every single day. So, boys, thank you so much for watching this video, and see you in the next one.